these video. I mean, I got a video blog where I talk about these chicks every night and what dumbasses they are. So, and I know the internet is a very gray area now. So, uh, does she need to be worried or what?
Well, I don't know where this where does this woman do her blog?
In Florida.
She's in Florida. And is the attorney from Florida? Or is the attorney from
No,
wherever?
the attorney and the woman are both in New Jersey.
Okay. Well, it's unclear to me which state law would be applicable, but generally speaking, defamation requires that the person make an assertion that's false, knowing that it's false, that it causes damages to the person's, reputation. The gray area is the fact that opinion, your opinion, anyone's opinion is protected First Amendment speech. So if I get on the internet and say, I think that Donahue is a real jerk, that's my opinion, and it's not defamatory, okay?
Right.
But if I were to get on there and say, Beth Donahue has defrauded her previous employers by stealing from them, knowing that that's not true, and put it on the internet as though it were true, that's not my opinion. I'm stating a fact, a false fact, that is that is potentially damaging to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure what he's talking about, what specific comments or blogs this woman said about
She's very very harmless. All we do is summarize what we think of the show. It's nothing in the area of, she stole or did any, and nothing like that.
well, as long as she can differentiate between what is protected speech and what is defamatory speech, she's okay. I mean, she's got to go and look at the post that she's made, and if anything that she says is something other than opinion or the truth. I mean, the truth is an absolute defense to defamation. So if you had stolen from your previous employer and defrauded them somehow, and I put that on the internet, it's not defamatory because it's true. So if you say something if you assert a fact that's true, it can't be defamation. It has to be a false fact. The other issue is when somebody holds themselves out in the public eye, like arguably this person on this TV show, like for example, the President of the United States, or any celebrity or sports figure, anyone who holds themselves out as somebody in the public eye, the standard is a lot higher to prove defamation because, you're kind of asking for it when you're
Right.
out in the public eye. So, it's way different to go on the internet and blog about this woman who's on television than it is to go on the internet and blog about, your random next door neighbor who nobody knows.
Right.
So the other thing is, and this is not an issue, I mean, clearly this is, the case, that in order for it to be defamation, it has to be published. That's why he used that word in the letter. Published just means that you either wrote it or said it to more than just the person you're talking about. So as long as a third person is involved in any way, shape, or form, doesn't necessarily mean published like in a newspaper or in a magazine or on the internet. Published means if I walk up to you and say something really nasty about your husband, that's defamation because something nasty and untrue, a fact that's nasty and untrue. If I said that to a third person, that's qualifies as that's a component of defamation. So clearly that's not an issue because she put it on the internet. So that's definitely, it has been published. But the issue is it's not defamatory speech if it's just for opinion. You can say anything you want about people. I mean, that's why we live in this country. That's why there's a First Amendment. I mean, think about it. If everybody could sue people for defamation, here's what's happening. She doesn't like what this woman's saying, and she's trying to scare her into shutting up.
Right.
So, that's pretty, and I've written letters like that before.
Right.
And I've had clients receive letters like that before. It's a pretty common, threat because most people don't understand what defamation is.
Right.
And if once you understand understand that it's protected speech so long as it's your opinion. Now, there's some exceptions, like under New York law. And like I said, I don't know what law would apply here, and I don't know what it is in Florida or New Jersey. But in New York, there's some very specific, narrow exceptions that where opinions can be defamatory, but they have to be so egregious and so misleading, and so that they rise to the level of defamation. But that's very rare. The other thing is, if you make comments about somebody, there's certain categories. Well, here's the other thing about defamation. In order for there to be defamation, there has to be damages. So if you can't quantify your damages, then you don't have a case. You can prove defamation all day long, but if you weren't damaged in some way monetarily by this, or be able to show that you were somehow damaged monetarily, you're going to have a tough time proving your case. Unless you fall into a category of defamation, it's called defamation per se. And those are very limited areas. The most common is when you make statements about somebody in the context of their profession. So if I were to say something about one of my colleagues as an attorney, that they are stealing from their clients, and I know that that isn't true, that person does not have to prove damages. Damages becomes not an element of the claim anymore. You can just prove the defamation, and damages are assumed. So if you're talking about somebody's profession, however, if I say something about one of my colleagues, like, that lawyer's an unprofessional idiot, that's my opinion. That's protected speech. That's not defamation. But if I make false statements that are stating a fact that's basically untrue, that's defamation. And when it's defamation per se, you're talking about somebody's profession, they don't have to prove that element of damages. And I don't know in this case whether it's arguable that in the context of her performing and acting or whatever in this reality show, you would consider that her profession. And if it is, if what she's saying, even if it is arguably defamatory, would come under the category of defamation per se.
Okay.
Just so you know, the other big defamation per se category is when you attribute a loathsome disease to somebody. Believe it or not, that's on the book. I don't know about the other states, but it is here. So if I were to go out there and say Beth Donahue has, syphilis, and I know it isn't true,
right?
You no longer have to prove damages. The damages are assumed.
Right.
So, when you're trying to prove defamation, you have to prove that somebody made a statement, it was false, they knew it was false, it was published to a third party, and that you have damages.
Right.
That's a basic defamation thing. If it falls under one of those defamation per se categories, the last element you don't actually have to prove. It's assumed.
All right, honey.
Thumbnail of defamation law.
Well, that was fabulous. I may have to put that on my YouTube site. Is that okay?
Put what on your YouTube site?
Our conversation.
Oh, did you record it or something?
Yes.
Oh. Well, just make sure you put a little disclaimer in there that I'm not giving legal advice to anybody, that this is just for informational purposes only.
All right. Are you still madly in love?
I do a column for a friend of mine who's got an online publication called Stepmom Magazine, and I do a monthly legal question and answer type column, and we always have to put the disclaimer there just so that people know that, just to protect my ass.
All right.